everyone. Welcome once again to Geeks Not Nerds, the podcast. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm ShadesAtKnight.
Shades and I are here to finish up our series, well, so far anyway, because there will be more, but to finish up, for the moment, our series on the X-Men films, and we're going to be, of course, doing a commentary podcast today on X-Men First Class. And I've been really, really excited to do this with you, Shades, because this is a movie that just hit me in a lot of the right places, and yet, I mean, like everybody, I've got some issues with it, and I know you being a big X-Men fan, you probably got issues with it that I wouldn't have ever even thought of, and it's gonna be really fun to kind of watch this with you and see it scene by scene.
Yeah, definitely. I've never really stopped and sat down and sort of broken it down like this, so this will be really interesting.
If you have never listened to one of these podcasts with us before, what we do is we record a commentary, and it is also a podcast simultaneously. So if you're not watching the movie, but you know it pretty well, you can theoretically listen to this and get something out of it, and we'll do our very best to provide enough context so that you know what we're talking about as we're discussing. We'll be talking through the entire film, but it's, of course, a lot more fun to watch the movie with us as we're watching it. So if you want to do that, grab your DVD or your Blu-ray or however you're going to watch it and get it past the menus, get it to timestamp 0 all the way to the beginning, and then press play as soon as I say now. So, Shades, are you about ready? How long has it been since you've seen this, do you know?
Probably quite a few months, actually. I saw it a bunch of times when I first purchased it, but it's been a while.
Well, this will be really interesting because, of course, it being as recent as it is, neither of us know it as well as we did, say X-Men and X2.
Yes.
Dissertation on X2 because we had that movie memorized.
One of those films came out 13 years ago, the other 10. So
that's a good point. Wow, is that long?
Yep.
No. All right, here we go. Everybody, please press play on your movie right now.
My good friends at 20th Century Fox, who just blocked my recent video. I love them.
I'm surprised you don't have that problem more often with them because you use a lot of X-Men footage.
I know. It was for using Daredevil footage as well.
Wow.
Yeah, it's sour grapes because they lost the rights to Daredevil. That's what it is.
Got it. They're like, well, we still own this one that a lot of people don't like. Even though I like it, but whatever.
Yeah, I like it too.
By the way, while we're talking about videos you make stealing other people's footage, I want to give a quick plug for your series, What Did We Do?, which is just hilarious.
Thank you, man. Episode 9 got blocked because I used Daredevil footage, so I re-uploaded it, and it's all good now without the Daredevil footage. So
everyone, make sure to look at that. I think it's absolutely hilarious, and I have a cameo in one.
Yes, you do. You're in the 3rd episode, I believe.
Which is great because I didn't even know I was in it when I watched it. So, what did you think of them reshooting this scene and the fact that we've got 2 out of 5 X-Men movies that open with the same sequence?
It's really interesting because they use some of the exact same footage here inserted, but obviously there's different actors that they focus on, like Magneto's different and Magneto's parents are different as well, but it's the most ironic thing is how people try and suggest that this could be a reboot. I'm like, no, it's got the exact same opening as X-Men 1. Like this stuff here with the metal bars, that's just footage from X-Men 1. Yeah, I really like how they used this opening and made it relevant for this film.
I like it too, and I like it that it doesn't go on too long. We see the part that we remember, and then it kind of moves on from there.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't spend too much time with it because most people have probably seen it. Like I said, the film came out 11 years before this one, X-Men 1. So chances are people have seen that movie when they're watching this one. Generally speaking.
And they do a really great job of setting up as Xavier as an intellectual right off the bat.
Yes, right off the bat. Haha.
But I'm Ching.
What's funny to me, I guess I just noticed this a lot more now after watching Arrow, because Arrow and X-Men, or the trilogy, used the same mansion.
Yeah.
And this is not the same mansion in this film.
Yeah, good point. I'm glad you brought that up. I didn't think about it. That's interesting. I wonder why they switched it.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, I guess, actually, I know why. Because the mansion that they used in the trilogy is in Vancouver, and this is in London.
Oh, okay, cool.
For whatever reason, they made this in London. I'm not sure if there was a financial reason or anything like that, but yeah.
How surreal was it the first time you saw this to see a prepubescent version of her?
It's actually kind of weird.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of weird too.
I still don't know how I feel about this brother-sister deal with Xavier and Mystique.
I still don't know how I feel about it either. I feel like in the movie as a standalone film, it works quite well.
Yeah, so do I.
I enjoy them together. I think that they get plenty of screen time to make it believable. In the overall context of the franchise, I don't know what I think of it.
Yeah, because when you really put thought into it, in X-Men 1, Mystique poisons Cerebro. And would she willingly do that if this film was made before X-Men 1?
I don't think so. What's tough about it is just that it's obviously an afterthought, and it has to be an afterthought. There's no way around it. But, it's like you go back. It's indisputable that was not in anybody's heads when they made their first movie.
Yeah. And
here's an inspired casting choice.
Oh yeah, I was shocked when he was cast as Sebastian Shaw, because Kevin Bacon was announced sometime before they announced who he was playing. And everyone was like, oh, he must be playing Sinister. And
that would have been fun too. But
I would have loved that, but I really love what they do with Sebastian Shaw. So it's much different to what we know from the comics, but it's still very, very good.
I think he's terrifying. I think he's a wonderfully understated villain for how powerful he is.
Yeah. I agree.
This is one of the tensest scenes I've ever seen in a superhero film.
Yeah. The one thing I would say is that this feels somewhat... We don't know how much time has passed between his parents being taken away and this scene, because it feels like it's the same day. And if that's the case, then he knows that he's been able to move metal for some time.
That doesn't mean that he can control it, though.
That's true, but I just got the sense that the first time his powers came into effect, in a time of heightened emotional stress, was when his parents were taken away.
Well, sure, and I'm sure it was, but I'm not sure how that changes how the scene plays.
Oh, just the way he's trying to move the coin. I don't know. It just feels strange to me that he knows he should be able to do it.
Oh, I see what you mean. That it wouldn't have necessarily occurred to him that he was the cause of that the first time.
Exactly. Yeah.
With the gate. That's a great point. I think that maybe the idea is that the way the cameras focus in on him, he's like there's something in his eyes where he seems to maybe be getting it. But that's just an interpretation. I guess that's how I always saw it with the first X-Men film, was that they go in on his eyes so close because he's realizing it just as it's happening.
Yeah.
But then, why is it that Shaw necessarily immediately figures that out?
Yeah, Shaw just knows what the audience knows, that he can move metal.
Right.
Which...
It's not a big deal. I think it's a...
No, it's probably... that's a nitpick on my part.
Sure,
but,
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting thing to consider, nevertheless.
Yeah.
there is a wonderful setup here that's paid off at the end. I think that the coin is a wonderful symbol.
Oh yeah, I loved that. I didn't expect it, and I loved it. And this whole sequence, I think, is fantastic. How he just completely loses it, and everything metal around them.
It looks really great, and it's again, he's scary. I mean, he doesn't look at this kid like a person.
Oh yeah, it's exactly.
And he feels completely justified in that opinion, and it doesn't bother him the way that he treats people, that he doesn't see as people. I mean, I think it's it's in some ways one of if not the best interpretations of the human versus mutant conflict in the comics, I think.
And what's ironic is that he's a mutant.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
And it's interesting because he's kind of similar to William Stryker in this film, but he, like in terms of the role that Stryker played in X-Men 2.
Right.
But yeah, he's a mutant. It's so, which is kind of scary. And I kind of like the fact that it was,
I love it. It's a Hitler parallel is what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, maybe that's a little bit on the nose because it's in, it's during the same time period.
Yeah, well, I think that's a good reason to make that comparison.
But sure. But then, he continues that past that period and into the 60s, and
yeah.
That was an interesting choice to have the logo be on the other side of the coin.
Yes, considering there was a swastika on that, and suddenly on the other side it's X-Men. I just thought that was kind of funny.
It is funny. It's definitely just kind of a cool image before it means anything. I would caution anyone to read into that. Or reading into that. I don't think there's anything. I think that there is some cool symbolism in this film. I don't think they're doing anything symbolic with that.
No, neither do I. No, it was just funny when you think about it. It's just swastika, X-Men.
Magneto is very much a poetic irony kind of villain.
Yeah.
And they nailed that here. So the actor that people were talking about the most, being impressed with after this movie, of course, was Fassbender. And I love Fassbender in that role, but McAvoy just blew me away.
I was really surprised, because I did not expect him to be... It's not that I didn't expect him to be any good. I didn't expect him to be this good. When he was cast, I thought, oh man, I don't know if he's the right choice for a young Xavier. And I know, like when you were doing Late Night and you spoke about the actor who played a young Picard looked like McAvoy, so you had that sort of perspective on it.
Sure.
But I just thought, man, the guy from Atonement and stuff like that, I don't see him as Xavier. And I'm so glad I was so wrong. He is really, really good. And what was funny is in interviews, he would really focus on this side of Xavier, the kind of womanizing, party guy. And we only see that for a little bit. The way they were talking about it, it's like he was going to be that guy throughout the entire film. And he's not, which I'm glad.
Yeah, there's a great deal of respect taken with this character. And I think that he is the most consistent between the past and future counterparts.
Yeah, oh, me too. I agree.
And also, I think it helps that I had actually never seen him in anything before. Just with my perspective when I first saw it. But man, he's not McAvoy. He is Xavier, and he's Patrick Stewart's Xavier.
Yeah,
I think he is a young Patrick Stewart. Yeah. in this movie.
Yeah, I completely buy him being the younger counterpart of Patrick Stewart, and I also, 'cause she's on screen, I really, really love Jennifer Lawrence. I'm kind of 50-50 on how Mystique is handled in this film, but I have no problem with her performance. I saw her before this in Winter's Bone, which she was nominated for an Oscar for, and when she was announced as Mystique, I thought, wow, they've really cast a really good actress. And I figured after this, she would kind of explode and be a big star, and she just won the Oscar the other day, and she's got the Hunger Games franchise, so yeah, she's doing quite well.
Yeah, and she's a really versatile actress. I saw Hunger Games and forgot she was in this movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, it helps that she's caked up in makeup through this whole film, but then again, but not the whole movie. She looks human most of it, doesn't she?
She does, yeah, yeah.
Now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, it's not until close to the third act where we see her in Mystique makeup for, an extended period of time.
I think it says a lot that Xavier doesn't even, think about the fact that she looks so strange.
Yeah.
It doesn't even occur to him, and that makes him very, very, not just sympathetic, but it makes a lot of sense for his character, because he's got to be a very accepting sort of person, because he's going to build the school, and he has such a different perspective on mutants than anybody else. But it also makes a lot of sense that the very thing that to me makes him look really sympathetic irritates the crap out of her. Yeah. Because from her perspective, and it's a very teenage kind of perspective, but it makes sense. From her perspective, he just doesn't get it because his power is invisible. She even says that.
Yeah, yeah.
And I like that relationship a lot. I think it works.
Because we don't have a bunch of...
It's a good conflict between them.
Exactly, yeah. And the fact that mutants aren't well known in society yet, the fact that somebody would look so different is, there aren't many of them out there. So, I like the fact that, she has the ability to look like everybody else. And, so she has that conflict. Mystique is really well written. But like I said, in terms of it being in continuity...
Yeah. Yeah, if you look at this again as just its own movie, and you don't think too much about continuity, because of course there are things that certainly break apart when you do. I think that just as a movie, I think that it compares really, really well to X2 and how thoughtful it is and being very, very much about something.
Oh yeah, that's very true.
Think of the 5, those are the 2 that most get the mutant versus human conflict right, and the civil rights stuff and all of that. I think that this and X2 are right on par with each other on being about something.
Yeah. And just because we're watching the scene right now, for those who aren't watching, that where Magneto takes the filling out of the guy's mouth, they found really creative things to do with Magneto's ability in this film.
Sure.
Like the thing with the watch stopping his hand and then it coming and hitting him up in the face a couple of minutes ago.
Uh-huh.
Like that stuff, it's really creative, and we haven't seen stuff like that yet. We've seen him, move bridges and, catch airplanes out of the air, and seen him do really big things in the trilogy. So the fact that they did some kind of cooler, smaller stuff, is really creative and really great. And Fassbender sells it like he's actually got the ability. It's great. He really does. Brilliant.
And it's a great opportunity to do all that stuff because everybody knows what mutants are in the other films, and he's able to just go out and blatantly use his powers all over the place. And in this, he's not trying to hide them, obviously, but he also doesn't know how to do the really big stuff yet. And he is dealing with a society that doesn't really know that these superpowered people exist. And so that's an opportunity they very easily could have wasted, and they got clever with it.
Yeah. Now, we have Rose Byrne as Moira McTaggart at the moment on screen, and I really like the casting. I kind of wish she was Scottish.
And it also makes very little sense that she's in this movie when you put it up to X3, but if you want to retcon X3 stuff, that's okay with me. I can deal with it.
That's fine with me, too.
I can deal with it. That's all right. Also on screen right now is Emma Frost, and I don't like January Jones in this role. We've talked about this before.
Yeah, January Jones is a good actress, but she was not meant for this role.
And I have a lot of respect for her now because I made a point over the last couple weeks to watch some Mad Men.
Oh, cool.
Knowing we were going to do this movie. And, by the way, I'm really enjoying that show. I've seen most of the first season now. And I think she was cast in this role because it's a period 60s piece.
Yep, she was.
I think that's why she's in it. And I think that's why it doesn't work, because I think that I don't know if this makes any sense at all, Shades, but I think that she is too comfortable in this movie. Because she's used to playing in this period, and so she doesn't know how to get outside of her other role. I'm not saying that Emma Frost is just like her other role, but it's too close. Those are two really different characters.
Yeah, and
really
she kind of plays them kind of similar.
A little too similar. I mean, like, Emma Frost isn't an airhead in this, but there's not enough going on behind her eyes.
No, that's the big thing. Emma Frost is so... People, I guess up until recently, where she's, the uncanny X-Men are a different team, but
right.
People didn't know whether or not to trust Emma Frost, and there was the big argument of, how do we know that she's not in Cyclops' head this whole time and everything like that. This Emma Frost, she doesn't look like she should be able to pull that off at all.
No, and with her ability, I mean, I've always liked the X-Men idea of cerebral people, or rather, people that have, that have telepathy and especially telepathic persuasion abilities tend to be cerebral. And it seems like they would be almost just by default, right? Where, like, if you grew up always being in people's minds, you'd understand people better. Like, even if you weren't, like really, really intellectual, maybe cerebral is the wrong word, but it seems like you'd get how people fit together, you'd understand them better, you'd be suaver and more meticulous, and she is one of the most meticulous characters.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
In the X-Men universe. She's one of the most calculating characters in the X-Men universe. And
exactly.
I don't see it behind her eyes. She's a puppet.
Yes, she is. And fair enough that Emma Frost, when in the Hellfire Club, is nowhere near as, I don't know, she goes through a big transformation after she joins the X-Men, but in the Hellfire Club, because she's, the right-hand woman to Sebastian Shaw, you should fear her just as much as you fear Sebastian.
Well, and you should assume she has her own agenda, and I don't.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And again, that's us projecting what we know of the character already.
Yeah.
Does she work okay in the role that she's given here? I mean, like, you go back to X2 and you look at, like, Lady Deathstrike. That's 100% different character. So the question is, A, is this 100% different character? And B, if so, is she working okay in the role they're giving her? I'm not sure if I'm capable of making that judgment because I know that character too well. Not that I know Emma Frost, like, really, really well, but I've read stuff with her. I feel like it's hard for me not to project on that role. Whereas Deathstrike was a character I didn't know before I saw X2.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's a really good point. I knew... and here's James Remar on screen, one of my favorite actors, in a very small role. But anyway, yeah, Emma Frost is a character that I really, really love, and yeah, it's a shame that I was really excited to see her, and they originally cast Alice Eve, who is, have you seen any of her stuff?
No, I don't know who that is.
She is she's gonna be in the new Star Trek. She's the one in the trailer with the blonde hair, screaming in every trailer.
Yeah, yeah.
She would have been perfect as Emma Frost. She looks like her. I guess this is subjective.
Is she playing Carol Marcus in Star Trek?
The one with the short blonde hair. I don't know what her name is.
Oh, okay. Looking at the trailers, I didn't know who that was. I just know that one of the main characters in that is Carol Marcus from Wrath of Khan. That's probably who that is. I'd have to look it up, but anyway.
Yeah. Because I haven't done I'm not following that film as closely. But yeah, so she would have been really, really great. And there were different stories of why she left. Some were, script reasons. Some were, just she didn't have the time or whatever. But yeah, that's kind of a shame because I thought she would have been perfect.
I also want to mention we're past the scenes that we were seeing with him, but I also want to mention I've always liked Glenn Morshower a lot.
Oh yeah,
the guy who plays Colonel Hendry, and he is a character like that in everything he's in. He's always wearing a uniform, and he's always either part of the army or the Navy or something, or Secret Service a lot of the time. And he had a huge recurring role through most of 24.
Oh, okay.
And I loved him in 24. He got a lot to do in that show, and he was a major character in that show. Yeah, I wanted to mention him. He's great.
Right. Yeah.
And it was kind of interesting to see him play somebody that was sort of kind of half backstabbing in this movie, because he usually plays like really noble kinds of characters. So it's kind of cool. So it's kind of funny. Like he's always the good guy.
These two actors here at the bar, they played Nazis in Inglourious Bastards, which...
Oh, really?
Yeah, which Michael Fassbender was also in. So that's really funny that they're in this playing Nazis as well.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. It's fun. The first time I saw Fassbender, it was in Inglourious Bastards, and I thought, man, who is this guy? He is so good. And I started to think, I originally thought that he would make a good Batman, eventually. I just, like, the jawline, his acting ability, he just resembles Bruce Wayne to me.
I would have never thought of that. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, so then when he was cast as Magneto, I thought, well, we'll probably never see him as Batman then, but man, he's going to be a great Magneto. And he is.
He is. Yeah. With, I think, just that one exception with January Jones, this movie is well cast.
Oh, yeah.
I think everything works, except for that.
Yeah, me too.
And luckily her part's not that big, so it doesn't kill the movie for me or anything.
There are some of the X-Men characters, they're not badly cast, but they're characters that don't have a whole bunch of impact, so it's okay.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, overall, like the principal cast, really well cast.
So this scene is extremely violent.
Yes. The fact that Magneto is just taking another sip of beer while this blade is in this guy's hand.
It's hard not to like him at the same time as you're kind of terrified by him, because I mean, so far we've pretty much just seen him walk around killing people, and yet he does it in really creative ways. So it's kind of, and also he has a good motivation, and we appreciate that. And of course, if we know the other movies, we know who this guy is, so it works. But I mean, like when he does things like pull that sword out of that guy's hand, and throw it at somebody else, and then bring it back with his powers, that's creative.
That's great, yeah. But yeah, like you said, because we know he's after Shaw, who killed his mother, we're behind him. We want to see him get to Shaw. Yeah, so they wrote. I've often said, I don't think this is a great X-Men movie, but it's a great Magneto movie.
I think it's just a great movie. I think if you take X-Men out of the title, it's a good film.
Oh yeah, I agree. But in terms of as a fan, what's lacking from an X-Men standpoint, I thought, X-Men Origins Magneto, I'm kind of glad wasn't made because he's so good here. Yeah,
absolutely. This is one of those things where if they've got to make this many continuity mistakes, I'm glad they made it in such a smart movie.
Yeah,
I'll take problems within the franchise all day long if I get a movie that's this smartly made.
Yeah.
And I mean, and it's even got a few problems within itself too that I'll mention later when we see them. But still, like next to X2, it's the smartest of them.
I would agree. Yeah.
We haven't, and I might be totally by myself on this, we haven't talked about my favorite character yet, which is the soundtrack.
Oh, really?
I love the music in this movie. I don't know what it is, but it just hit me in the right way, and I think has a lot to do with the consistent tone I feel like this movie has. I feel like this is a movie that, as much or more than most superhero films I've seen, like consistently knows what it is. And I think that soundtrack has a lot to do with that. The
soundtrack for all of the X-Men films, apart from 3, is really, really good.
When I like that this doesn't sound like those at all.
It doesn't. That's what I was going to say.
Totally different.
It's uniquely its own. Yet later, and I'll point it out when it happens, there's a track that sounds a lot like a track from X-Men 1, but it's not. It just sounds that way. I thought that was a really nice touch. And I love the Hellfire Club owning a rich, living this rich lifestyle on a yacht. That's great.
Yeah, well, and if I'm not mistaken, isn't that kind of what they were like in the comics?
Yeah. That's what I mean. I love this notion of, like, look at us, we're all rich people.
Yeah. I'm glad they kept that.
Yeah.
Because that was a major component of them from what little I've seen of them.
Yeah.
Most of what I know of them is from the cartoon show.
Fair enough.
That's a cool effect.
Yeah.
When that grenade blows up and he sucks it into himself.
Yeah.
And if you don't know who Shaw is, and the thing is, I had seen him in the cartoon, but I didn't remember much about him, so, like, walking into this movie, I sort of forgot he was a mutant. And you get, and like, if you walk in not knowing who he is, that's a great reveal.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute, you're a mutant? After the way you treated Magneto back in the 40s? Oh my god.
Yeah.
Big reveal.
In this scene, we have a guy named Stryker.
Yep.
And Xavier references his son William. So, yeah, Stryker's daddy is the guy on the right, I believe.
I like that. That works for me.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. The way I'm not exactly sure what he said there, but what he said was it catering? McAvoy.
Yeah.
The way he just looked at disgust. That was really funny.
It's fun that, again, the movie is smart enough to have these kind of what I think are realistic notions of how people in the 60s would react to what mutants are. It was like, oh, that's a spy. That works pretty well. I think it makes a lot of sense, and people I don't even think now would immediately accept other superpowers, even with, like, all the fiction we've had on it now.
Yeah, exactly. I really liked how they, generally speaking, I like how they handle people discovering, mutants. There's a point, I can't remember where it is, but there's a point later where I'll point it out where I feel like people aren't reacting to mutants the way they should, but I like this, she's hearing his voice in her head. Like, how does somebody react to that?
Yeah. I don't know why Xavier had to freeze that guy right in the water fountain. I'm like, what if he drowns?
Yeah, what if he forgets about him?
Well, but if he's not concentrating on that specifically, he'll just, like, wake up, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, they play some of these powers for comedy, and it's not stupid comedy, and it totally works.
Yeah.
And it's a hard tightrope to walk, right? Because if you're going to play Xavier's power at all for comedy, you've got to fully trust that guy so that when he's forcing people to do things, it's actually funny and not scary.
Yeah. And this is the scene where everyone started saying that Fassbender should be the next Bond. This is very, very Thunderball, but
I can kind of see that.
Yeah, he'd be Fassbender in just about any role is great, but
he's way versatile too. Like, I can't think of a lot he couldn't do.
Yeah, for sure.
I think the crystal effect's pretty good.
I don't know. She looks like glass to me. I liked what they did in Origins, actually. I liked how she looked in that, even though it was one scene.
I was gonna say, I forgot she was even in that.
Yeah.
But I think maybe we even talked about it a little bit in that movie.
Yeah. I mean, that is a problem for me, because they advertised her as Emma Frost, and people were saying in the comments of that video as well, like, but she's not named Emma in the film, so it's okay. It's not okay. It means they're just doing whatever they want to. I'm not.
See what you mean.
Yeah. I have a problem with that.
Well, I guess I was just saying I thought the effect looked alright.
Oh yeah, the effect looks okay, but knowing that they did a better effect in a film that Emma Frost didn't even need to be in kind of disappoints me.
Well, I think the jury's out on whether or not she needed to be in this film too, but
yeah, oh yeah. But when the Hellfire Club are the main villains, I would say that she needs to be there.
Yeah, fair enough.
She needs to be played by somebody different, but she's written like Emma Frost. She has lines that I could picture Emma Frost saying.
So I'm gonna guess, Shades, that just within the context of the franchise, you probably didn't like that they went period with this.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, actually. I was gonna bring this up eventually. Obviously, I was pretty ticked that they called it X-Men First Class, and it's got very little to do with the First Class of the comics. Especially when First Class is a series.
Yeah.
About the Young X-Men. Or the original X-Men, and it disappoints me because I feel like they had great potential to do things with young Scott and young Jean, and they didn't. And my thing is, yes, they're too young to be in a film in the 60s, but did we need to set it in the 60s? Like, why is it set in the 60s, apart from the Cuban Missile Crisis?
Well, that's the reason.
Yeah.
It's like, and just the general idea of that was when the comics were first introduced, and that and that the whole thing was an allegory for what was going on with civil rights. So I mean, like, in a sense, it makes sense that it makes a lot of sense to do an X-Men film set in the 60s. But again, if it was a standalone film that somehow or rather, in some world where this was possible, had nothing to do with any other franchise, which is by itself. If you did this story in the comics and you set it outside of continuity, nobody would care.
Yeah.
You could do that, and that's kind of fun. And I also like that you're still doing an allegory for civil rights without doing civil rights simultaneously.
Yeah.
Like, it's set in the 60s, but we're not really dealing that much with racism with African Americans and stuff like that. Like, it's not really in the movie.
Yeah.
And I think that it would have been way too obvious if they'd gone there.
Yeah.
Having said that, they probably shouldn't have killed their one black guy.
Well, yeah, it's funny because the one reference to African American rights is in that one little bit where Shaw says, would you rather be enslaved? And they focus the camera on Darwin.
They shouldn't have done that.
I'm okay with it because it's referencing an important historical situation.
I guess I'm just saying I would have been more okay with it if they hadn't then killed him. But,
yeah, sure, yeah.
Yeah, but that's it, because it just feels, I don't know, like it seems like kind of the obvious thing to do, and it also seems a little bit like a little unfair. I think. Yeah.
I'm kind of not a fan of the pacing right now. Suddenly, Magneto is a part of the team.
That doesn't work for me either. I had the same problem in the theater.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because now that I'm thinking about it, that really bugged me in the theater. Because, and you said pacing, I think it's structure. I think it's organization. What you're dealing with is a movie where every scene he's been in, except for when he was a kid, we've seen him kill someone.
Yeah, exactly.
And now all of a sudden he's with these people, and we're going to have to buy or be expected to buy a relationship between him and Xavier. And Xavier can read his thoughts and knows how maliciously he has murdered folks.
Yeah. The fact that he says, "What do you know about me?" Xavier replies, "Everything." And then
and
later, it's meant to be.
Yeah.
It's meant to be a surprise that he wants to kill Shaw this whole time. Like,
oh, that's a really good point. Yeah, but he should know that. Well, unless that's just something he says. You know what I mean? Like, maybe he doesn't really know everything, and he just says that.
Sure. Yeah.
And it could, but see, the problem is there's a big catch-22 there. Because if he doesn't know everything about Magneto, then it's difficult to appreciate why he is, working with him, so closely and okay with it. Because it seems like he would have had to have read something in his mind, even if that line's not entirely credible, right? That would tell him, this guy's a little dangerous.
Yeah, yeah.
And they could have done something interesting with that, with the idea that, like, he's really dangerous, and Xavier thinks he can trust him anyway. And then he's kind of putting all these kids in danger by having him around. That's not part of the movie. That's not explored.
No.
And I think perhaps it should have been, or he should have been more unsure of Magneto. I don't know how they could have had a relationship that way and have but the problem is having them be like nearly best friends this quickly is just a hard pill to swallow. You almost need another movie.
Yeah, they at least needed another scene in between the scene in the water and the scene that just finished. They needed something else, like a conversation between the two of them, because suddenly Magneto's just going to the CIA with them. It's kind of...
And he's kind of a serial killer. I know I'm focusing on that, but it bothers me.
Yeah, it bothers me too.
It doesn't bother me that he's a serial killer. I'm fine with him killing all those people. That's not what I'm saying. I mean, that all works okay, but it seems like it's kind of just ignored after that, to a degree. I want a better explanation for that helmet.
Yeah, the Russians built it for him.
What I don't get, the reason I want a better explanation is how many telepaths have the Russians come in contact with?
Well, we're meant to have not come in contact with many mutants at all.
So I don't get how you could make something that would block something you don't even have any physical proof even exists.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where we're at there. So that's the problem with the helmet.
Yeah, I have a problem with that too.
I don't care for that line where they both say normal at the same time, with Beast and Mystique there. I think it's too obvious. That's
a little cliche.
It's a little cliche, yeah. I'm okay with something like it. I would have liked to have seen a line that's kind of the same line, but not the thing that we've seen in like every CW show we've ever watched. That was a very CW line.
It's weird. They're sitting. Actually, I don't know where they are right now. I can't remember. They're just in like a sphere of some sort. I don't know. No, it's not a sphere. They're sitting in a circular deal. But it looks like they're having like a picnic or something. So I guess they're having a date here.
Wait, are they having a date?
Well, they've got like this food set up and stuff like that.
That's a good point. It's like, we're going to make this really romantic, except these characters they haven't decided they're going to be romantic yet. You have a really good point there. So, like, did they set up a picnic so that he could take her blood? That's how it comes off, right?
Yeah.
And then when Eric walks in and says kinky, I'm sort of thinking the same thing. Like, at that point, I'm like, no, you guys really set up a romantic date where taking blood is involved.
Yeah. Like,
I can never watch line that again. That's the funniest thing ever.
Yeah. The kinky line got like such a laugh in the cinema when I saw this.
It did for me too. I like it. It's funny.
Yeah, me too. Here's why you don't let a serial killer inside the CIA facility. He might steal stuff.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe we should have thought a little more about that.
Yeah. Like,
what do you know about me? Everything.
yeah. I guess Xavier just had faith that, you know.
That's it, yeah. But again, I love that idea. I want to see it explored if that's where they're going with it.
Yeah.
As it's too ambiguous, in my opinion.
Yeah, me too.
Having said that, they've got wonderful chemistry together.
Oh, yeah.
Wonderful.
The thing, it didn't bother me the first time I really saw it because I bought them as best friends. Because they do have such great chemistry. And they're two, you know, world-class actors, but, you know, they really do come across like friends.
They do. Oh, absolutely they do, yeah. And they come, and at first they do, to a degree, kind of seem to be coming from similar places. I mean, not from similar motivations, but I mean, they want the same things until you get to the end and they don't. And boy, I love that line.
Yeah.
When you get to the end. I mean, maybe it's a little on the nose, but I really loved it. Because stories are all about protagonists. What do they want? Do they get it or not? What does that say about them, and how does it change them, or do they change? And you get to and that's spelled out in a wonderful way. We want the same things. No, we don't. And now we know where these two people are at the end. I love that. But I don't like the idea. Again, this is somewhat just within the rest of the franchise. I don't love the idea that they're best friends for like 2 weeks and then it all falls apart.
Yeah, and in terms of the franchise, in X-Men 1, Xavier says that when I was 17, I met a young man named Eric Lencher. And that's... Yeah, they're not 17 here.
No, definitely not. He's in graduate school.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. He's at least 30.
Well, he'd have to be 30 if this is the 60s, because that would put him at about 60 in X-Men if we're to assume that X-Men actually happens in the same year it's put out. Now, the way I would like to look at this is that this is a period piece, and then the other movies are in whatever the heck year you want them to be in.
I completely agree, because one of my arguments was that X-Men isn't set in 2000.
No, it's not. It's set in the not too distant future.
Yep. That could be set any time, and one of they were very particular about that. Like, the costume designer was, you know, she didn't want to choose costumes for these guys that, you know, looked like something that people would wear down the street in the year 2000. You know, they're period neutral very much in the trilogy, and yeah.
So that makes this whole period idea a lot harder to swallow too. But I think that it is a lot easier to deal with it if you don't project the time with the other ones. You just can't.
Yeah, and I better talk about this while it's on screen. There's Storm, and we're about to see Cyclops in a second as well. Just there with the glasses and the baseball. So 2 little cameos there in Cerebro.
Which is fun, and the thing about that is, if they're already around as kids in the 60s, they would be a lot older.
Yes, they would.
If that first movie was actually supposed to be set in 2000.
Yeah, so...
Because they're clearly in their late 20s, early 30s in that movie.
Yeah.
Well, they wouldn't be if they're 6 or 7 in this.
For sure. And it's funny because...
And I know I'm right about that, Shades, because that's about the extent that my arithmetic skills go. Very confident in that. I can't go much further than that.
It was funny because I would often say, why wasn't Cyclops in this film? He's the original. And people were like, because he's too young. But he ended up being in it anyway.
Because he's 8! That's why. I'm not a big fan of the idea that there are 2 characters named Angel.
Oh, neither am I.
I just don't like that. I think it's kind of amusing that they have a character named Angel who's in the First Class and then turns into a supervillain.
Yeah, because...
What are we doing?
I mean, she's a Grant Morrison character. I'm pretty sure. Once again, I don't care for Morrison's run, so I tend to forget characters that were introduced in that. But yeah, so there are some very random characters that got to be original X-Men in this. Like, I can you know, if we can't have Cyclops and they had to choose Havoc, or at least Havoc was, he was the next class. Like, it was him and Polaris that were added to the original team. But, you know, Darwin and Banshee, you know.
And I guess that makes Havoc the older brother?
The much older brother, yeah. Either that or people have suggested that he could be Scott's father. And I hate that notion because I really love Corsair.
That doesn't work either, though.
No, not if Cyclops is already alive. No, that's
not
true.
if he's already alive. I mean, you said we saw a cameo for him there, and I mean, I saw it too. So like, he's too young and he's not married and he doesn't seem to know he has a kid. So
yeah. And here comes the greatest cameo of all time.
Yeah, it's a great cameo. I love that.
Yeah,
that's very funny.
Jackman apparently was totally on board when he found out he got to drop the F-bomb. So. Which I think is hilarious. And
it's a great use of the F-bomb. I find myself focusing on this more and more with PG-13 movies because it seems like these days, since you only get one, a lot of PG-13 movies that are kind of rough around the edges, will try to, you know, get one in someplace, and sometimes they're like really obvious and forced. And I like that this is one that is that way, and it totally works. You know, It's like, here's our one F-bomb, and we're gonna use it, and here it is, and it's a great opportunity for it, because you'll never get to hear Wolverine say that anywhere else.
Exactly. And it was Wolverine who said it.
I like it. What I don't like about it, but what are you gonna do? It's worth it. What I don't like about that and some other things about this movie is that you get that F-bomb, and you get a couple of really, really violent scenes, and there's only like 2 or 3 things in this movie that make this kind of hard to show to kids.
Fair enough.
And I don't like that about it.
Yeah. That's a good point. I'm okay with it. I'm glad that if they had to drop an F-bomb, they gave it to Wolverine.
Oh yeah, sure, absolutely. I guess I'm more irritated with the violence thing. And again, irritation's not even the right word because it works. It's not gratuitous. It's just that, and I'm somewhat projecting my own life onto this. But I mean, like, I'm raising a kid that's growing up loving superheroes, and he's going to want to see all the X-Men movies, and he's going to have to be a certain age before I can show him this one. I don't like that.
That's true. Because the way it was advertised, it certainly looked like it was going to be a fun X-Men film. You know, obviously there was going to be historical relevance for the adults, but you know, kids could still watch this and enjoy it.
And that was true of the other ones, with maybe the exception of Origins. But I think this is even rougher than Origins, weirdly enough.
Oh, much, yeah. You know, there's people are killed before our eyes in this.
That's right.
You know, we have a lot of scantily clad women at the beginning and stuff like that. You know,
there's a slow motion coin that we follow going from one side of a dude's head to the opposite side of his head.
Yeah.
And again, I like it. For me, I don't know. I don't want to belabor the point, but it's something that I'm always sensitive to.
Yeah, it's
and younger folks listening, if you grow up and you decide to get married and have kids or whatever, you're likely to have the same thoughts about it when you get older.
Yeah, I guess, you know, because I was 18 or whatever when this came out, so, you know, I was like, yeah, Wolverine said an F word, you know.
Oh, sure.
But, like, I can imagine, like, you know, if I had kids, I probably, I'd be thinking twice before I showed this to them, so.
But I also don't want to act like I'm alarmed that just all of the sudden we're doing this. I mean, heck, Daredevil came out in 2003 and it had the same kind of thing.
Yeah, I saw Daredevil.
Do you really want to take your 8 or 9 year old to a movie where somebody gets their hand impaled with a sai? Like,
yeah,
on screen?
Exactly. I mean, there were things about Daredevil when it came out. I was 10. Watching it on the big screen, like, there were some things that were very graphic, like, you know, the the playing card that slits the throat and all that sort of thing. Like, just some stuff that's like, ugh. I don't know if I want to see that, but in Daredevil context, yeah, it has to be there. But
Shades, I looked this up. That pinball machine is actually a real pinball machine from the 60s.
Ah.
I looked this up. That particular machine did not exist until a few years after the year that this movie set in.
Oh, so the CIA must, like, get preferences with pinballs.
I guess. I was just sort of like, you couldn't, like either, I don't know if they reconstructed that or if they probably went and found a collector and got that.
Yeah.
But like, you couldn't have done a quick wiki search and gotten one that was actually from that year.
Yeah, well, because I was about to comment on
Because I just wikied it, and I was like, what? And by the way, if people think I'm crazy for doing things like that, I was working on my trivia book, and I thought it would be kind of fun to ask what pinball machine that was. And I looked it up, and I was like, it's not from that year.
Look at these are how mutants. This is how mutants party.
Yes.
One of them hangs upside down. One of them dances on the couch aimlessly.
Yeah, I mean, how long is he hanging upside down before he totally gets sick of it? Like, I'm having the time of my life. All the blood is rushing to my head while I'm dancing.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, look at me go. I was not a fan of how they came up with Magneto.
I hate it.
Oh.
And I hate Professor X too. I don't like that. I don't like that. First of all, I don't like the idea that Mystique just comes up with those.
Yeah.
I guess the idea is that they had a conversation and they all kind of came up with it together. But and they were all coming up with names. So I get it. I think it's a little too quick and thrown out there. And here's that music cue that sounds like the first movie.
Yes, here it is. But yeah, I don't like how like Eric just goes Magneto. Like in his head, you can see him going, "That's a good name." If somebody said to me,
yes. That sounds like an excellent name for a serial killer, which is what I really am and what I plan to continue being. And my good friend Charles Xavier, who's completely altruistic, does not agree with me with my lifestyle, but yet he's my best friend, and I shall continue it, and I will do it under the guise of Magneto.
Magneto, what a great name. But yeah, I was gonna say, I liked how they had, like, Oreos and, like, I'm not sure if they were Coke or Pepsi, but, like, soda bottles that, were from the 60s there. It's kind of a shame that they couldn't get the right pinball machine.
Too bad.
Yeah.
But I'm sure nobody else, would have noticed that.
True, yeah.
I didn't notice it. I looked it up.
Yeah, it's just, if you're aware of that sort of thing, it's kind of... I guess we're talking about it way too much, but like it's...
No, but you're right. I mean, you're doing period stuff.
Yeah.
So you want to try to be as accurate as you can, or what's the point?
Yeah. Like if...
But this is a little counterintuitive anyway for X-Men, for a pre-established franchise. It's already kind of counterintuitive. So if you're going to do it, you better do it right.
Exactly. Yeah.
But most
I like, that we get to see Xavier do some different stuff with his power as well. Like, get inside someone's head to, see what's going on from a different perspective. That's really cool.
Yeah, we never had an effect for that before. Well, we've never followed Xavier. We've never been, from a story perspective, we've never been in Xavier's head before.
No. We've seen him go into other people's heads, like, Senator Kelly and stuff like that, but, this is, he gets to do some cool stuff with his power as well.
I guess one of the reasons that this movie really sat well with me is because I had been waiting for Professor X to be the protagonist, and we got it.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
We do have, this is an ensemble cast, we do have multiple protagonists, but he's the main guy. If you did have to point to one protagonist who has an arc, everybody has to a degree, well, most people in this movie to a degree have some kind of an arc, but the most important one, the one that we're supposed to focus on the most, it's Professor X, and Magneto has a tragic one.
Yeah. I mean, Magneto's is definitely up there. It's nearly 50-50. But yeah, it's a much different one, so. Now this is so Emma Frost, but well, not this. These are some soldiers dying.
I was like, how far behind me are you? And then I realized you weren't at all. You were like, wait a minute. That's not...
I said it just as like one of them's getting caught in like a big, cylinder of barbed wire. But yeah, I was gonna say that's
classic, remember that classic iconic moment in the Claremont run when Emma Frost just like panel.
What's kind of weird is that this looks like the mansion.
I was gonna say the same thing. It does.
Like in the trailer, I remember it didn't make it in the film, but there's that shot where he took the guy's knife and he made him stab himself with it, and I thought, oh wow, like soldiers are in the mansion, and nope, it's just this dude's place.
So this is so Emma Frost.
Yeah, well, this is Emma Frost.
I like she's eating a cracker.
And I love the guy just being like, oh yeah.
That's just wrong. He's hilarious. Everybody's just messing with him.
Yeah. And I liked the smile that January Jones gave there. That's probably the one positive thing I can say about her.
Yeah.
I thought that smile was funny.
I mean, I think her dialogue is even pretty spot on for that character. It's just the way she's delivering it. She's a different character.
Yeah, she has a lot of Emma Frost dialogue, 100%. But it's just not Emma Frost that's saying it.
Yeah, we know it's not the script's fault.
Yeah.
But that's all right, because I mean, I couldn't even get a Mary Jane I liked in the Raimi films, so. If I have one sort of minor character in a movie like this that's just totally wrong.
It's just the thing is that she is in a lot of this film.
I guess that's true, but she's still kind of just a hench chick.
She is, but she's a hench chick that gets to do a lot. And if she wasn't such a major character from the comics, then I wouldn't be as... like I've said in the past in the other commentaries, they can change characters if it works. And they didn't change the character. She's just
wrong choice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it is really fun that Shaw's responsible for the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that it isn't just set during this, but that it's actually the plot.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
And yay for Children of the Atom line, because I don't think we've even had that in X-Men at all yet.
No, we haven't. And also the way he said it earlier with when he was in the room with all the mirrors, and he said, we're the children of the atom, my love. Because that's something that Shaw says. He always calls Emma my love. It's just how he talks. I was glad that we got that line in there.
Watching this, I'm kind of just getting the sense that January Jones doesn't really get this material.
Which is funny, because she, this is what I heard, is that she read, like, a lot of stuff.
Really?
Yeah, but she just didn't get it.
Yeah, because I mean, the performance seems like she's just not invested, like she's not all there. Like she's here because she was hired, but she's not real sure she even wants to be there. But, like, if that's not the case, then I don't really understand the performance.
Yeah.
I guess we're talking about that a lot, but it's one of my big issues with this movie.
Yeah. I really don't buy the CIA guys making fun of the mutants there. They're meant to be government agents, and they're in custody of the government, and they're making fun of them.
Yeah, that's not appropriate, guys. You guys need to be professional at your highly top secret job.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
And yeah, it's just like, it's not like they're prisoners. You know, they're meant to be allies, and they're making fun of them.
Yeah, although they might be trying to make some kind of a point with that. I'm with you. I don't think it works.
I'm sure they are trying to make a point, but it's like you need to make a point with the CIA.
Yeah, I just wanted to play Azazel's advocate for a minute.
I love all these people falling out of the sky. It's not meant to be funny, but it's just
but it is unintentionally hilarious.
Yes.
Now, some people have complained about the fact that they're calling them mutants this early. Does that bother you?
It doesn't bother me because what else are they going to call them?
That's what I thought too. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just that's one thing where I have to suspend my disbelief, and that's what they just automatically call these people.
And I mean, it is what they are. I mean, it's a little odd that there's such a standardization. You know, there's such a standard term already for what these people are going to be called when very, very, very few people know what they are or know about them. So I can see why people took issue with it, but I'm with you. Like, what else would you call them? And you don't want to confuse an audience.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a place where I can sort of understand the argument of, well, we've got to be accessible, because it's not a dumbed down thing. It's just you had a similar kind of thing in Watchmen. I don't know why I'm bringing this up, but you had a similar thing there where like 5 or 6 times the superheroes in that movie are called Watchmen. That term is never used in the graphic novel.
That's exactly right. But
cool guys don't look at explosions. It's a staple of X-Men films, apparently.
Well, at least when they're in origin territory, yeah. Prequel territory, yeah.
Man, that's a great point. Boy, if it's a prequel, you are going to have some dude at some point with an explosion behind him that he is not paying attention to.
Yeah. I love this. Him, like, putting the dude in front of him and moving him side to side. I
like that, too.
Azazel is really great, action-wise.
Yeah, I think so, too.
He really rivals his son, you know, in terms of having that really cool ability that you just love seeing in a fight scene.
Oh, yeah, I agree. It's great. I wish the sound effect was the same for when he disappears, because I really like the Bamf we got next to, and it's not the same Bamf.
No, I guess it's not. I'm
complaining about the Bamf. I'm sorry. Yes, I'm being a total geek right now, but the thing is, in X2, the first couple times we heard that in the White House scene, I remember thinking, yeah, man, that's what Bamf is supposed to sound like.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Anyway, I will stop complaining about the Bamf.
I like how he's using swords, because that's also what Nightcrawler does in the comics.
He does?
Yeah, he fights people with swords a lot.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Are you being facetious?
No, I'm being serious.
I'm sorry. I was just like, you had that tone you had earlier when we were.
I'm sorry.
When we were making fun of you for the Emma Frost thing, it was like, yeah, she totally just like kills soldiers randomly. I don't remember Nightcrawler with swords, but I haven't read a lot of Nightcrawler stuff. Really, is that a motif?
Yeah. I mean, it's not used a whole lot because it's kind of, what else do you do with swords apart from cut people? But
yes.
Yeah, he uses swords a lot, and kind of like the smaller ones, like you know, I guess blades. It's probably a better term.
Dagger.
Swords.
Yeah.
But yeah. Now, the fact that we get Mystique and Azazel on the same side by the end of the film would insinuate that Nightcrawler is going to be conceived at some point.
Which works.
Which works for me, except Mystique.
Oh, no.
They went, what?
What is your except? You're going to ruin this for me. What is it?
Well, the thing is that they go right out and say that, or put Magneto and Mystique in a relationship.
That's a great point, and so the insinuation there would be that they've been in a relationship all that time.
Exactly. So yeah, that quite doesn't work for me. But I was against them actually coming out and putting them like together because I liked how it was insinuated in the trilogy.
Yeah, I agree with you. He's also got some weird dialogue when they first start getting together that I guess we'll talk about later that I just don't think works at all. But
yeah, not
he does some
or age appropriate. But
yeah, some weird condescending stuff, and I just like that didn't work for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it's the 60s and the genders were looked at a little bit differently by a lot of people, but I don't feel like these are those people. Like,
yeah.
So we're gonna kill this guy, and we're gonna treat it like it's like really dramatic. But I mean, like I've known that guy for 10 minutes, so I don't really care much.
It looked pretty great. I thought they were gonna kill him off. I thought that was a cool way to do it. But yeah, it's yeah, they do that whole thing of like Magneto actually says, "Then we can avenge him." Like, you know, put that next to Coulson's death. And how the team avenge him. Like, it's a bit different.
It is different. Well, you kind of forget about him after that. He never comes up again.
Yeah, yeah.
If I remember right, I don't think anybody ever mentions Darwin again in the film. So, I mean, like, it's like they set that up to try to make, to try to have just yet another compounded reason that Magneto wants revenge and that Magneto, thinks that everybody on his side should agree with his revenge motive, but like that never comes up again.
Yeah.
So it's a random example. It's a disconnected thing.
And I also don't buy Angel just switching sides so quickly as well.
It comes completely out of nowhere. And again, we're not invested in those people yet. We don't spend enough time with them, so.
Which is why I often say I don't think it's a great X-Men film. It's a great film, but in terms of it being an X-Men film, it's a film with a bunch of X-Men characters.
Yep. All you had to do was title it different and not make it about establishing an X-Men team. I don't think you had to make it about establishing an X-Men team. Your main characters are Magneto and Professor X. It's your standard, but I don't mean that in a bad way, you know, Clark Kent, Lex Luthor relationship. And you just focus on that more through the whole movie, you know what I mean? Give them screen time, cause those actors can handle it, and, you just make it about them. And then you still do the Shaw plot, just make the whole thing. It's Professor X and Magneto stopping the Cuban Missile Crisis. Boom. Done.
That's what the film's called.
Yeah, but
Xavier and Magneto stop the Cuban Missile Crisis.
You would have watched that movie.
Oh, totally, yeah.
Would have been great, and it would have been just as good as this, I think. That's not to say that there aren't some good things done with some of these characters, but like they're being a little clunky at this point.
Yeah.
This is probably the roughest part of the film.
This was also kind of strange that like both Banshee and Magneto felt the need to wear sunglasses in this scene. It's just something very weird about that.
Awesome.
Like Magneto's were like clearly 60s Ray-Bans, and you know, not that Banshees aren't 60s as well, but it's just, you know, it must be really bright that day.
Hilarious.
Because it's funny because we don't really see characters wear sunglasses in X-Men because of Cyclops.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
So it's just awkward to see X-Men in sunglasses for no reason.
Shades, I would expect nothing less than you bringing up sunglasses just because they're in a scene.
Hey, I'm ShadesAtKnight. What can I say?
That's what I'm saying. It's gotta happen.
Count the blinks. Count the blinks.
Count them. Why is she doing that?
There were 13 blinks, ladies and gentlemen. 13.
I've seen that video too.
Yep.
But I gotta tell you, I didn't notice it before I saw that.
Yeah. It always bugged me.
And I was like, are you serious? Why? And that's gotta be a conscious choice.
Yeah.
How do you blink that many times and not be thinking, I'm going to blink 13 times? Like,
Here's James Remar again. Yay.
he doesn't even get a character name.
No, he's not.
He is credited as his position.
Oh, really?
Is credited as United States Secretary of State.
This is like at least his third or fourth comic book movie, so. Blade 3, The Phantom.
Well, the castle, I mean, like, it's not the same castle, but it is a good-looking castle. Like,
It looks a little Hogwarts for me.
I kind of like it for the X-Mansion, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like how it looks so different to the mansion in the trilogy, just because something that Xavier does every time the mansion gets blown up is that it's built the exact same way.
Yeah, that's a great point. And also, anything like that is cannon fodder for people who want to call this a reboot.
Yeah.
And with all of the, even though we've got cameos from actors from the trilogy that this is a prequel of.
Yeah. I really love how those people who see this as a reboot, by the time the sequel comes around, they're not going to anymore.
Too many more.
Yeah.
I think that was always in the plan.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I don't mean that necessarily doing Days of Future Past was always in the plan, but I mean, I think doing a sequel that made it a lot more evident, I think was probably always what they were going to do if this movie was successful and they made more.
Well, I know that Lauren Shuladonna has wanted to do Days of Future Past for a while now.
Well, it's because it's a great thing to adapt.
Exactly, yeah. I often said they could fix the continuity errors in this if they did that.
And
a story with time travel. But, yeah. We're going to see... Sorry, go ahead.
No, this is what these guys do for fun. They shoot each other.
I love how he's so confident that he could catch the bullet. But at the same time, he's not, because he knows he needs to push himself. So, he could push himself to death.
Oh, that's a really good point, yeah, because he's like, no, don't worry, I got this. I can do this. No problem.
Yeah.
I need you to shoot me in the head so that I can challenge myself. Don't worry, though.
Yeah.
It's gonna work. I can catch a bullet. I can't move that giant thing over there, but I can catch a bullet.
Yes. Now, we're getting a lot of, kind of comic book panel looking stuff during this training sequence.
That's what Ang Lee did.
Sorry?
It works a lot better than what Ang Lee did.
It works better. It's used for transitional purposes here, so I'm okay with it. But, I don't know. I don't like it in Hulk, and I don't really like it here. But, I don't know.
I think it's cool that I actually like it quite a bit. I think it's cool that the glass, that mesh that the glass is on, is
framing, yeah.
Framing, they put the panels around it. That's cool.
Yeah.
Just looks neat. Don't worry anybody, I'm not gonna read into it, try to act like that's symbolic of something. I just think it looks neat. It's a good transition.
Now, I'll mention it when we get back to Beast running. But I like how this is kind of the beginnings of the Danger Room here as well.
Yeah. I also have to say that Alex Summers was a character that I had never read any of at all, really, before Uncanny Avengers. And now that I'm reading something with him in it, I like this actor in that role a lot.
I like him too.
A lot. And I mean, I kind of love to see something that kind of focuses on him a little bit more. I mean, it's sad that they can't do anything with him and Scott together, but like, he is perfect for that guy.
Interesting. I like him in the role. I guess he's a really good choice. I just don't get to see him act a whole bunch in this. But
no, you absolutely don't. I completely agree with you. It's just that now that I know the character a little bit, I feel like that's the guy. Like, But again, I don't know his older stuff. I'm basing that on current.
Fair enough. Yeah. Because I'm not reading Uncanny Avengers, so I don't know how it's being written in that.
I don't buy that he can lap him that fast.
Neither do I. I don't know why he's suddenly the Flash.
Yeah, why does he have super speed? We're talking about Beast. Why does he have super speed just because he's got extra toes?
Yeah, well, he's got hands for feet.
Or rather, I'm sorry, hands for feet. I don't know why I said that.
That's. I don't love that, but
if feet were hands, it means you could run 4 times faster than a normal human.
Apparently.
I should try that sometime.
Yeah, try running on your hands.
I'll hold my legs like a wheelbarrow, and then I'll try to run really fast with my hands and see how fast I can run.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure they move at about the same speed.
I was going to say, have fun with that.
Yeah, it'll be great. We'll do a scientific experiment to try to debunk something that's obviously already debunked in X-Men.
Now, I have kind of a...
Jeez.
Sorry?
But Mystique's pretty freaking strong.
Yes, she's just holding it there.
What is she... Well, but also just like the amount of weight she's bench pressing there, that does not look like a girl that could bench that much.
Well, she was taking her time benching it just before Magneto came in the room. And there, she's holding it, she caught it in midair. And was holding it there for an extended period of time. I don't buy that.
I don't either, but I buy it before I buy Beast running like the Flash.
Yeah, that's true.
Some montages that don't make sense scientifically. It's scientifically inaccurate X-Men montage.
Something that I don't buy is that Magneto tells Mystique that if she's using energy shapeshifting, then she's not fully concentrating on the situation. So when she shapeshifts as somebody, she's shapeshifted as, for example, in X-Men 2, she was Senator Kelly for months. So, I don't know. I don't quite get what Magneto was trying to say there.
Plus, how would he know?
Yeah, he just knows that. Once again, it's the sort of thing where the characters know what the audience know, apparently.
That's it. Because they're gonna run the school together, they just understand these powers automatically.
Yeah.
But not entirely. I like that Professor X has got to kind of gauge Alex's a lot.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't like how he just knew that Beast was going to become the Flash.
Yeah. But, telepathy is a weird thing in this movie, like I said earlier. It seems like everybody understands exactly how it works.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Including the Russians.
Same thing with Beast that you had with the Russians. He freaking builds Cerebro. Does he build Cerebro by himself?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he built Cerebro.
Cerebro, now, and of course, I know that that's also a continuity mistake from X-Men 1, but I mean, he builds Cerebro, and he just met the only telepath he's ever met.
Yeah.
Explain that to me. I don't understand.
Xavier has only met one other telepath, and that's Emma Frost. So, they're not running around everywhere.
Well, and you get the thing is, I think one problem with this movie is that you do have a difficult time telling how much time passes between a lot of scenes.
Yeah.
You agree? I don't know how much time passed between the time that they started, Professor X started working with the CIA and meeting Beast and everything. But it can't be more than a couple of days. I don't know how he built Cerebro that fast.
Yeah. He obviously built it in advance.
Yeah, he already had it built. I'm sorry, but I think that there is a major component this movie is missing, which is that you have to as far as scientifically, when you're researching something or when you're building, when you're inventing something, you have to base it on an understanding of the thing that it's supposed to enhance. How do you enhance something that you don't even know about yet?
Yeah. I really love here how Xavier thanks him for the beautiful memory.
Yeah.
This is where I completely buy their friendship. I mean,
me too. I agree with
these two just have such great chemistry, and they so understand the characters. And I never thought I'd ever see casting as good as Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen in these roles. And the fact that we got it is pretty fantastic.
And I feel like we're kind of still seeing them.
Yeah.
I don't feel like these are really different performances.
No.
And the reason it works with Fassbender is because he is doing something drastically different, but it works because he's such a different character right now than he is when he's older.
Yeah, and quite frankly, he's much closer to the comic book than Ian McKellen is, in my opinion.
Oh, I think so too. I agree with you.
Cool, yeah, because I know, Ian McKellen is beloved, and that is one freaky smile.
It's great.
I've got the new Mentos joke, yes!
Giant mouth, Shades. That guy.
Yeah, so, like, I know that Ian McKellen is beloved, and I know some people will disagree, but I really see, when I think about Magneto from the comics, or the animated show, or anything like that, I think Fassbender's a lot closer to that.
Well, and what helps is that Fassbender is a lot closer to the age of the character that you're used to seeing.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Magneto's got white hair and everything, but he's always, like, in amazing physical shape. Whereas Ian McKellen is, an old guy, so.
That's a good point. I forgot about the white hair thing. Yeah, I guess it never occurred to me that he was old. I guess maybe he is most of the time you see him kind of like maybe in his 50s.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he had to be he was a kid during World War II, so.
Well, yeah, of course. It's just that before I saw the first X-Men movie, I didn't know that backstory.
Oh, fair enough, yeah.
Because again, remember, I was a kid when the cartoons were on before there were X-Men movies, and so watching the X-Men show, I guess what I'm saying is when I was a kid, it never occurred to me that he was probably in his 50s or whatever. I always thought saw him as like 35 or 40.
Yeah, I guess I'm the same. I got that he was the same age as Xavier.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm thinking back when I was stupid, naturally. He's got to be the same age as Xavier, or really close. And Xavier you never see as a young guy. He's bald, he's got wrinkles. Of course he's older, yeah. I'd like everybody to please go back in time and then skip 5 minutes ahead from the place where we were 5 minutes ago.
Just forget it.
Sense.
Do the Xavier mind trick.
Just forget everything I just said.
He will have no memory.
He will have no memory.
That's got to be the staple reoccurring deal in our commentaries, right? He will have no memory.
That's absolutely right. That phrase has come up in every commentary we've done. Man.
And by the end of it, she will have no memory.
I have no memory.
Yeah.
I don't think they should inject themselves with that. I think that's a bad idea.
Yeah. I love how Beast was able to come up with a cure. Or at least, I know that's what he's trying to do in the comics when he turns blue. But it's just so funny to me that we had a movie where the cure was the main storyline, and here in the prequel we have Beast trying to find a cure.
Yeah, and you'd figure that the actual cure would have to be based somewhat on his research, because it worked for like a minute and a half.
Yeah.
So there's obviously something to it. It's not just. I mean, you have this movie logic a lot of the time where you have to show it work for a second so that everybody remembers what it was supposed to do in the first place, right? But like just looking at it at face value of what it is, he injects himself and then he doesn't have powers for a minute and a half, and then it mutates. So there's something in it that you should be able to expound upon and actually make it work, theoretically.
Yes, and I don't get why he wants this cure.
I don't really.
It'll take away his hand feet, which he just learned how to control for his benefit.
And I feel like they just have Alex writing him the whole movie just to kind of try to drive home the point. And I think it's lame. Just kind of drive home the point that he really wants to be normal.
Yeah. It's
and
like Alex
is
very randomly just being like, oh, we should call you Bigfoot, and oh, nice big feet, and oh, we should call you Beast. Like, I don't.
Stop giving him nicknames. Knock it off.
Yeah, your nicknames suck.
I'm gonna name you Energy Hula Hoop Boy.
Hula hoop.
Yeah, how do you like it?
Yeah, because like Mystique says earlier, like we need to call him Havoc now. It's like, why? Why Havoc?
How'd you come up with that? Well, I don't know. That's what he's called in the comics, and I read those.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, why Magneto? They got magnetism and went, oh.
Oh. Oh!
Maybe it's because he has magnetism ability, and that's neato.
Well...
See, why didn't I write this film?
No, you know it's because there's actually a thing called a Magneto.
Yeah.
I know that she would be aware of that.
That's what I mean. That's not a common knowledge sort of thing for kids in the 60s, would it? Like,
I don't think so. I don't think so, but you know I'm going to be nerdy enough to look up the history of the Magneto. I'm gonna do.
Meanwhile, Beast injects his foot.
Yeah.
Chemical X.
Oh man, it turns out now that Beast is made of sugar, spice, and everything nice.
Yep. That's the Beast I love.
These ingredients were mixed to create the perfect little beast.
The perfect little beast. It's funny watching this, knowing that Beast is going through another transformation right now in the comics.
Yeah.
Or he just went through another mutation.
I think he's still kind of in the middle of it. I don't think we know exactly what it's gonna be. Exactly
right,
yet.
okay. At the time of this recording, anyway.
Yes, right. Yeah. This is gonna be a little dated.
Yeah.
After a while. We apologize for setting this commentary in 2013. We should have tried to make our commentary a little bit more timeless so that, if we do prequels in the future, we won't have any problem with, how old we cast the young Captain Logan and the young Shades@Knight.
Hey, Cap, I can't wait to see The Dark Knight Rises. But not that.
If that cameo! That's so cool.
Yeah, that was really cool. And I didn't realize just how much they kind of looked like each other until then.
Dude, and I geeked out so hard in the theater when they did that.
Yeah, me too. And it's funny because I was the only one in the theater who got it. That's who that was meant to be.
I had to
so
explain
I went, yay! And everyone looked at me. So.
It's cool. Well, one thing that's really kind of subtle about it is you sort of have to know these movies pretty well to even pick up on that, because of course they're showing you the human version of her.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's in makeup most of the time when you see her in those movies.
Yeah, like some people don't even realize that that's meant to be her in X-Men 2. When she, turns into her normal self to drug Mr. Lorio.
I didn't pick it up for a long time either.
Yeah. And yeah, she had black hair in X-Men 3 when she got cured, so she was different again.
This whole business of like you should be normal. I mean, like you don't have to worry about being normal, so you ought to walk around naked makes no sense at all.
Yes, she's a 20-year-old lady, and Magneto's saying, "Do you look at a tiger?" and says it should wear clothes.
Well, he didn't exactly say it like Ian McKellen.
Well, that was not my Ian McKellen impression. That was my condescending Shades impression.
I love how time you quote Fassbender, you sound like Ian McKellen.
You ever look at a tiger and say you should wear clothes? There we go.
Oh, of course not.
Of course.
Of course. She walks up to Bane. She's like, "You should be named Bane."
His name is Bane. A laundry service that delivers. Wow.
I have given a name to my Bane, and it is Bane.
See, we need to write like a scene for X-Men Days of Future Past where they bring in a bunch of New Mutants and name them.
Yeah.
I will call you the Dazzler.
Because I am bedazzled.
Yes.
I'm feeling quite bedazzled. Except that you can't have them have any actual explanation, because that would make way too much sense.
Yes.
And then just point at people and call them things.
You dazzle me. You will be Dazzler. I can't think of any other mutants right now.
Be the bedazzler.
You have pink wings. You will be Pixie.
Pixie. Professor X, you should be called Wheels. Why? I'm not in a wheelchair. Oh.
You soon will be.
Alright, so your take on the Beast makeup.
Ugh.
That's all we needed to know. Thanks very much.
Yeah, I don't like how it looks more like, it looks more like Cat Beast.
You know what's extremely ironic about that choice to me?
What?
Clearly based it on what he looked like in Whedon's run.
Yes, and which was established in Morrison's first.
Good about that is in X3 they do that story.
Exactly, yeah, which is very ironic. And his mouth doesn't move properly.
Stop giving him nicknames. Quit.
Like, look at him say, "I designed it," in just a second. His mouth hardly moves with his voice.
Yeah, it doesn't work. And it's weird because they got it right with Kelsey Grammer.
Yeah, I don't like it. It's not. I don't want to be a broken record and say that it's not consistent with the already established films, but when Beast looked so great in X-Men 3.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't hate it. I think I maybe like it slightly more than you do. I just don't think that the design's not a big problem for me, but the way he's talking is. I feel like the actor looks really uncomfortable in the makeup.
And what's weird is that he got his voice to a point where it kind of sounds like the animated series voice.
Yeah.
He sounds so much like Beast. It's amazing.
I agree with you. And they wrote him right, too. I really love his vocabulary.
Yeah, me too. So he also built the Blackbird in this film as well.
Yeah, he can build anything, man.
Yeah.
Guy, just if you need something, dude, he could build the scimitar from Star Trek Nemesis. I mean, there's anything. He will build it for you.
The tumbler? Oh, you wouldn't be interested in that.
Interested in that? Do you have it in yellow?
Does it come in blue?
I like the sheer number of different languages they had to write in this movie.
Yeah. I don't know this. I wonder if there are any inconsistencies or that. Like, people who actually speak the language might go, that doesn't make any sense.
From my limited knowledge of German, the German's all right.
Okay.
But I just said all right and said limited knowledge, so the stuff I picked up on. My wife didn't complain. My wife speaks fluent German, so.
Oh, okay, cool.
And one thing Sarah actually said to me after we saw this movie is she appreciated that it wasn't dumbed down German. That it wasn't that movie kind of German where they just like keep writing in like sing-songy like third or fourth grade. You know, kind of, so that because the people that are writing it don't really know the language well enough to write in it. You know what I mean? And she said that it actually sounds like things that I mean they actually are using the kind of language they would be using.
That's really good then.
So that's good.
Yeah.
My wife lived in Germany for a while when she was a kid.
Oh, okay.
And she studied it in school for like 6 years or something.
Cool.
I studied 3 years.
Sorry.
I was terrible at it because I'm not good at languages.
I love Azazel with the captain's hat. Just a bit earlier. He's got this big smile on his face like, I'm the captain now.
I didn't notice that. I'm Captain Azazel. Make it so.
Yeah, see, look at Beast, like, when he opens his mouth.
Yeah.
It just looks unnatural.
And now we've come to the action part of the film.
Yeah. So I think this is kind of the part where I was thinking all the Americans and the Russians are just completely cool with mutants teleporting around them and everything. Like, they don't seem to be fazed by it.
Not freaking out right now.
Yeah.
It's happening. The aliens have landed! Well, I'm actually not joking when I say that, because that, I think, is the first thing people would think in 1962.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah.
Don't you think?
I agree, yeah.
Because this isn't that long after Roswell. The science fiction's really big right now.
Yeah.
Remember how people acted, how those people acted in the barn in the 1955 part of Back to the Future when they see
yeah, exactly.
They think it's and that was 55.
Yeah.
You know,
that's a great point. Yeah.
I just thought of that, but I think that's probably true.
Yeah.
The way he smiles is weird. Yeah, I don't know. It's not working.
Yeah. It's like his face is... I wondered if his face was sometimes CGI, the way it moves so strangely.
Sometimes, yeah.
Whereas, like, Azazel looks amazing.
To be fair, that's an easier makeup job.
It is, but when they got Beast so great in a film previously, I don't know why they had to make it so difficult for themselves.
It's like we can have a film with a terrible story that looks awesome.
Yes.
We can have a movie with a great story that has some issues visually. So Banshee is mostly in this movie so that he can use his power to make something happen.
Yes.
He doesn't really get a character arc so much.
No, and I really, all of the, apart from Beast and Mystique, kind of all the X-Men are like that. Why is Havoc there? You know?
No, that's true. Well, because you have to have some X-Men if we're going to call it First Class. Now, some people have complained that First Class is a bad title because they don't really go to school. They don't really set up a school. I think it works because we get that montage sequence where they're at least learning how to use their powers. There's enough time to set up a school in this movie.
Yeah.
I'm kind of okay with that, especially because it's just implied that they will be the class after this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah.
I don't have a problem with that. I didn't need to see people... I don't think it's fair to say, well, if they're not sitting in a classroom writing on pieces of paper taking tests, you can't call it First Class.
No, that's... I don't agree with that. They don't need to be in class. And the fact that they do train, you know, we actually see them train, I'm fine with that.
Glad that's in there.
Yeah.
You calling it that, and not even just because of the title. Of course, I would have much rather seen the original 5, or at least most of the original 5.
Yeah.
Sure. I could have done without Angel. I mean, if we did, you know, that wouldn't have been that big of a deal to me. But, you know, at least Beast and Jean Grey and Cyclops at the very least.
Yeah, you know, I know I'm the Cyclops guy, but it does bother me that they did an X-Men film with Havoc, with the formation of the X-Men, with Emma Frost, and Cyclops isn't there.
Well, it should bother you for all the reasons we've talked about in our previous commentaries, because Cyclops was so shafted so hard in the other 3.
Yeah.
If he had, and it's weird because he's in Origins for no good reason. I think I would have had. I'm not going to speak for you. It wouldn't bother me probably at all if Cyclops was like more of the protagonist in one of those movies, because he should. He's the leader of the group. I mean, you know, he's like Jason in Power Rangers. You know, I mean, like he's the guy that leads the group.
Yeah, exactly.
That was a terrible example, by the way. There's no character arcs in that show.
I was going to say I can't say, you know, if I agree with Jason from Power Rangers, but
yeah. I guess I just mean in the sense that like he's kind of he's kind of the guy you're looking toward because he's the leader.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I haven't seen Power Rangers since I was about 4, but
Well, that's fine. I was something stupid.
I mean, the easiest example I can say is that he's like Captain America in the Avengers.
Of course.
He's the leader. He's the guy that is the decision maker. Everybody listens to him. The fact that Cyclops, isn't that in the films is kind of disappointing. I mean, he's meant to be, and it's referenced that he is, but we don't see enough of it.
Well, he's not much of a character.
Yeah. There are hints of him being a fully, fledged character, but, I feel like we would have, I've said this before, but we would have got that in X-Men 3 had Bryan Singer stayed on. And Bryan Singer has teased that Cyclops is going to be in Future Past, so, I don't know, maybe it'll be rectified. We'll see.
I think that movie is going to have 500 characters in it.
Yeah, the fact that Jackman said everybody who's ever worn a costume in a superhero film will be in this. That's, yeah.
We're gonna get, like, this epic shot where they're just all walking down the street together.
To Saturday Night Fever strut.
In entirely different costumes. All not looking at an explosion that's happening behind them.
Yes.
We haven't talked very much about Moira in this movie. I think she's quite good.
Yeah, I really like Rose Byrne. I've always liked her. She's an Australian. I've seen a lot of her work. She gets the character. It's just I kind of wish that she was Scottish. I guess she was their entry into the CIA, but I don't know. That's just maybe a nitpick from a fanboy, but I don't know.
I understand that because it's kind of it's obviously a very, very intentional change. Because if she is Australian, she's already faking a different accent.
Yeah, yeah.
Because she doesn't sound Australian, she sounds British.
Really? I didn't think she sounded British.
I thought she sounded British. I would have never pegged her for Australian.
Well, she's not being an Australian in this.
No, that's what I mean.
I didn't think she was British in this, though. I thought she was very American.
Yeah, I guess maybe you're right. Maybe I don't think she's doing a very good American accent.
Well, I mean, she's a very well-spoken American, but...
That's true, sure, yeah.
I mean, also, accents were a little bit different in the 60s, so...
Well, that's true, yeah, absolutely, sure.
Whereas, like, the others aren't really doing that. They're just doing their regular accents. Well, not Fassbender and McAvoy, but,
Yeah. Again, I haven't seen this movie that many times, and we're talking over it, so... I might just be remembering something totally wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I probably am. But yeah, you're right, she should be Scottish.
Yeah, so here's where, like, the guards, just like, let's, get around this one mutant.
Yeah. And also, X-Men is all about diversity, so, like, you take characters that were always from other places, and then you just make them all American.
Yeah.
Something else.
Like I said, it bothers me that they made, Pyro American. And just because, there are so many different nationalities and they Storm's accent, just a lot of that stuff. Colossus, even though some of these characters are really small, they just make them all American.
I was wondering if regular viewers that just watch these casually and aren't big comic book fans go into a movie like this and think, hey, there's all these characters I've never heard of, that's weird, or, oh, I bet these are really popular in the comics.
Yeah.
Because they're not, a lot of them.
Sure, like, who cares about Angel Salvador?
Even Banshee is kind of third string.
I mean, Banshee has a little bit of a following because he was around
but I'm just saying,
long time ago, but...
Compared to, anybody in the other three.
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah.
But that's nothing against Banshee. I like Banshee. I kind of thought it was kind of neat that he was in this if they had to pull from, random characters that we haven't used yet.
Well, when I heard that he was going to be in this, I was like, well, of course he is, because Moira's in it.
Right.
Because they're, married. But that's kind of weird to think in this continuity.
It's a good point, considering how differently aged they are.
Yeah.
But, maybe in 10 years or something they get married.
Yeah.
Like, I guess that could work.
So yeah, Banshee's also not Scottish, I just realized.
Yeah, that's just what I was thinking.
Yeah.
You do have to kind of wonder, and I wonder if they'll explore this in a sequel. You do have to kind of wonder what ultimately ends up happening with Moira and Professor X.
Yeah. I read that she was contracted to come back. But
I think so.
Yeah, it's just when he did the Superman kiss of, brain wipe in this, I just wonder.
Wait. Does that happen?
Yeah.
Did I miss that? Wait, there's he wipes her memory?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so I have no business doing this commentary because I don't know basic plot points from this film, apparently. Never caught that. Again, I've seen this, 3-4 times, but I never caught that.
Yeah, because they kiss at the end, and then she's in the CIA, and she says, "I remember trees." Like, she says the last thing she actually remembers is the attack.
Yeah, okay. Why did they do that?
It's a good question.
Huh.
This is a really great scene.
This is one of those things where it's kind of impressive how little screen time Magneto and Shaw get together, and how much of a very deep negative relationship they have.
Yeah.
And how well the actors pull that off. Because, I mean, that can't be easy when you have to play. I mean, every single scene, and when I say every single, I mean like 2 or 3 that these two characters are in is really heavy emotional stuff, and they've got to play that like they've been thinking about this for years.
Yeah. I just realized we got the thing towards the beginning where Xavier froze the guy at the water fountain so they could establish this with Shaw.
That's a great point.
Yeah, because I was thinking earlier, like, they don't freeze anybody else in the film, do they? But yeah, I completely forgot they do it to Shaw. Like, for those who haven't seen X-Men 2 or forgot that he does that in X-Men 2, this is they kind of needed to do that.
That's great. I didn't think of that. That's a good point. It would be really funny if he froze him and somehow his nose was in water. I remember in the theater very briefly going, wait a minute, how can he still know what Magneto's doing? Oh, yeah, there's another head there. Okay.
Yeah.
I think this movie does a really good job of establishing what the rules of these abilities are. And I said that when we did X-Men, when we did the first X-Men film.
Yeah.
And this one's really got that working too, and does a really good job. I guess my main point is it does a really good job of that's gross and creepy. It does a really good job of communicating that to the audience.
Yeah. Well, this was written. We haven't brought this up yet. This was written by Bryan Singer.
And thank God.
Yeah. Yeah. So he really understands that that's what needs to be done.
I don't understand some of the continuity mistakes since he wrote it, because most of the mistakes are with the other things that he worked on.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I know he wrote. I think he wrote the screenplay, and other people wrote the script.
Okay.
So dialogue
stuff that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
With the rest of the films. Again, things like, who exactly built Cerebro, not that big of a deal unless you're thinking about it compared to the other movies, except that it still doesn't make sense who built it, because he doesn't know anything about telepathy.
Yeah, and, I don't like harping on the continuity stuff too much, but it bothers me because it's so connected to the other films that they had the same opening as X-Men 1. If they're gonna go that far...
of other things.
Yeah.
I feel the need to mention fan nods, with like we mentioned earlier, with the actress that first played, Mystique, and things like that. They're clearly trying to set this in the same continuity.
Yeah, the fact that they have Hugh Jackman and Rebecca Romijn cameo in this, it's
and
it's impossible to say that it's not the same continuity.
And that Mystique's got the exact same makeup job.
Oh yeah.
Because that was invented for this franchise. It's like extremely different from the comics. That's one of the biggest changes they made was what she looks like.
Exactly. Yeah. The scales are very uniquely this franchise.
I mean, she was blue, but that's where the similarities, end. They're both blue.
Exactly, yeah.
And they have weird eyes. Not the same weird eyes. They're kind of different.
Yeah. And red hair.
By the way, I want to mention, once again, that I'm a complete idiot, and Moira McTaggart has an American accent in this. And I don't know why I remembered it as British.
Yeah, I thought I was going crazy. It's like I could have sworn it was American.
Well, what happens is, you talk over a movie like this, and I'm not really listening to the dialogue so much as I'm looking at it on the screen, and for some reason I just remembered her as British.
Fair enough. I'm listening to it without sound, so I wasn't...
but I have to apologize for discrediting myself by saying obviously stupid things.
It's like, and I want to say this now and rectify this, I was completely right about the Ian McKellen "When will these people learn how to fly" line not being said on camera.
No, you won. You won that one. Well done. Wait, just
you were like, I could have sworn. I'm like, no, I'm sure of this.
No, you were absolutely right about it. I like the blood there over Magneto's eye. Like, there's just nice attention to detail like that.
I really love this thing of Magneto turning the missiles around.
I think it's important to note that Xavier is partially responsible for turning Magneto into a scarier person.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because, his motives have never changed. What he wants to do has never really changed, and Xavier was a good influence on him, but he taught this, I guess I should say it again, serial killer how to use his powers to their fullest extent. And he cannot feel good about it after what happens.
Exactly. He allowed him to have his powers grow.
He facilitated it.
Yeah.
I really like how, just for the sake of this movie again, because I don't like that they're only friends for a couple of weeks before they break off, or however long it is, but for the sake of the movie, I like this scene and how they break off exactly. I really think it was going way too far to have him lose his legs.
Really? Because I was going to say I really like that.
Oh, they went too far.
Because I completely didn't expect it. Like, that came as a huge shock.
Did it really? I kind of thought it was going to happen. And I was hoping against hope walking into the theater that they wouldn't do that.
I had read something about them wanting to do it in this,
Oh,
but
okay.
I tried not to read stuff like that because I want to be surprised.
Right.
And I just didn't expect it. I honestly, I like the way it was done. So
I think they did it in the best way they could to make it not look too contrived. I mean, I do appreciate that. I don't think that it's real, in your face, or gratuitous, in the way that, well, of course, I mean, this is apples and oranges, but in the way that, like, that, like, Stryker knew that bullet was gonna erase Wolverine's memory. You know, how ridiculous that was. That, like, the whole movie, it's like, how are we going to ridiculously make him lose his memory? Whereas this movie, you're right, they're not setting this up.
yeah,
This comes nowhere in the way that it should, and I like that he's responsible for it. I mean, again, everything within the context of the film, just as a movie, yeah, it all works. I guess just for me, knowing that this would probably be a franchise, I kind of wanted him to go through a whole movie with his legs, and then this happened later. That's just a personal taste thing, though. I don't think it's a problem.
I like how it was Xavier who helped Magneto access this great power that he possessed, and it was Magneto who made Xavier paralyzed.
No, that's right.
I like that they did that for each other. They set up this path that they're going to go down. But
maybe the thing is that I just kind of wanted them to still be friends through this movie, and then the break off happened later. And so, you know, you can't have. I guess you can't have one without the other. You know, I guess if you want that really really cool, interesting thematic thing for their character arc, or I mean for their relationship and how it unfolds, you got to do it both at the same time.
Yeah, I do think that the Brotherhood is set up way too early. The fact that he's already got a Brotherhood here at the end of this film kind of bothers me.
Why is that?
Well, actually, you know what? It's not that he has the Brotherhood, it's that Mystique joins him.
Yeah.
That makes no sense.
It's set up too fast, and again, I don't love their relationship because I feel like he's too condescending toward her, and I don't feel like she would put up with that.
Yeah.
That's hard for me. Just again, I know it's weird that this is the big thing for me, but just the fact that he has convinced her that she needs to walk around naked, it bothers me.
It bothers me too, and the fact that Mystique is just totally cool leaving her brother, essentially, as he lay paralyzed in the sand.
And that relationship,
I don't believe that
I did come to buy and really appreciate, and had a lot of investment in, and then she just walks off. It seems like for everything we know about her character through the film, she should be more on the fence.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like, it should be, I mean, heck, why isn't Beast joining them?
Yeah.
Right?
Sure, yeah, exactly.
No, I don't see anything in his character through the film that wouldn't make him make the exact same choice if that's what she's gonna do. It seems to me like what it ought to be is, just from what we're given in the film, that Professor X is absolutely certain on his side, Magneto's absolutely certain on his side, and then you got people that are really on the fence in between that just aren't sure. And Mystique is very much one of those.
I think Beast wouldn't join Magneto just based on the fact that Magneto just killed a guy, and was ready to kill all of those soldiers.
But why doesn't Mystique have the same feeling?
No, I know, it doesn't make sense with Mystique. That's the problem.
What I'm saying is that if both of those characters together, if Mystique could just suddenly do that, so could Beast.
Oh, yeah, no, you're right. If they're gonna do it with one, why not just do it with all of them? I mean, it makes no sense. So, it makes sense for the X-Men not to join, I said the X-Men. It makes sense for the X-Men not to join Magneto there, but makes no sense that Mystique does.
It is played as real motivation, and it comes off as excuse.
Yeah. Like I said, it was left so open to interpretation whether the relationship with Magneto and Mystique was at all sexual. And the fact that they kind of come right out and say that in this film bothers me. So why is she joining him? Is it based on that? Like, that's, yeah.
Yeah. It's very superficial, and it undermines a lot of her character arc for me.
Exactly.
I also think just the basic idea, and this is not a comic book thing, just in this movie, the idea that Magneto and Magneto and Beast and Mystique are gonna have a love triangle?
Yeah.
Really?
How awkward is that?
But that's what you got there. That was a love triangle, dude.
Yeah.
I didn't need that.
And then the next one, we will have Banshee, Xavier, and Moira in a love triangle.
Yeah, I guess so.
So here we go. The Superman kiss and mind erase.
Thought about it like that just because it's at least something that he can do.
It's something he can do, but it's just kind of, you know.
Isn't it? Yeah, you're right though. Isn't that a pretty blatant, obvious thing to do in a superhero movie? Especially when one of your producers' last name is Donner.
Yeah, wow. I didn't even think of that, yeah.
He wasn't responsible for that, but I'm just saying it's kind of funny.
Oh, he wasn't, was he? No, that's true. But still, yeah.
It's kind of funny to say that.
And this line here, where he says women should never be in the CIA, it's nice. I guess that's a historical perspective sort of deal, but
no, that's fine with me.
Okay.
Men were condescending toward women like that all the time. I'm watching Mad Men right now, and that is like tame compared to what they do in Mad Men.
Oh, I know, man. Jeez, yeah.
And sometimes I feel like they probably play it up harder than it was. But then again, in the kind of office they're at, maybe it would be like that in advertising in a way that it wouldn't be in other places.
Speaking of Mad Men, January Jones has had love interests in 2 franchises now, where their last name is pork-based, with Kevin Bacon and John Hamm.
I'm
glad to bring that up.
The context to say pork-based.
Yes. And yay for the helmet, but not so much for the rest of the suit.
Yeah, whatever. I don't care. He's got the horns.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
It looks like he stole the red part of it, like it looks like he stole the coat from a valet. But apart from that, the helmet looked great.
The helmet looked great. I love that we've got comic book films now that are willing to go that far.
Yeah.
Marvel's doing it hard, and
exactly, yeah. The fact that we've gone so far from, superheroes who wear brightly colored spandex and putting them in black leather to, having a whole team, like with the Avengers of colorful costumes, and now that we've got Magneto's helmet and stuff like that, I'm really happy that we've come a long way in the past decade.
Yep. It's like as these films have gotten more sophisticated story-wise, they've gotten goofier visually. And that's not a joke. That's how it should be.
Yeah.
Because that's how the comics are.
And that's what makes them unique,
Really fun, goofy, silly stuff you'd never have in real life. The realism should not come from the visuals. The air quotes realism is in the characters, is in making them real people you're invested in. Now, the difficulty with this movie is that's done to a degree, and then there's places where it doesn't quite get there. As we were discussing earlier, the big one being Mystique. Where she is at the end doesn't work for me.
Yeah, me either.
But Charles and Eric work. It's still a bit condensed for my taste, but you got to be impressed with how well they managed to make us buy that relationship in as little time as they had to develop it. That's hard.
Yeah.
And it worked.
Yeah, it did.
It worked. It's a compromise I can live with, and it's the reason that I'll watch this movie over and over again. Is those two guys.
Yeah, I've often said for all the faults, I really loved. This is a sort of similar thing that I have with X-Men Origins Wolverine, is that I really love the casting, generally speaking, and I can overlook some of the faults based on I love the cast. Now, I've kind of shied a little bit away from that with with Wolverine, but this film, I can overlook all that stuff because the cast was so solid and the performances were so great. So,
well,
yeah.
I also think it's important to know that it's not just the performances. Most of the script is really solid.
Most of the script is very solid, yeah.
Versions did not have a solid screenplay.
No, it didn't.
Thrown together, like really difficult to reconcile the screenplay where motivations were difficult to understand, and it was really all over the place. It was very soap opera if soap operas were giant action movies. And you look at this movie, and it's got a couple of places where that's happening because they have to rush motivations, but it's places where if they had been able to take their time, and if the movie was longer or they made it a couple of movies, where they decided to take the characters could have worked. It's just that it comes off, like I said, as kind of an excuse, especially with Mystique, where you're just like, I don't know why she goes with him at the end. Yeah. I don't know why. I don't know where the leap is from I'm starting to agree with your philosophy over Charles's to I want to have a sexual relationship with you.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. Especially because I bought her and Beast's interest in each other, and I never saw it with it. It was really cold. It was really sterile between those other two.
Yeah, exactly.
How did this movie match up to your expectations? Because I'm kind of curious as to what you even thought you were getting yourself into.
That's a good question. Beforehand, like when this film was first announced, when I heard they were going to do X-Men First Class, I was so happy. So I thought, now we're finally going to get the proper respect for Xavier and Cyclops as central characters. And when we only got one of those, I was really disappointed when I found out that they weren't doing First Class. And it was the sort of thing where I thought, well, Fassbender should be good, and Kevin Bacon should be good. Hopefully it's good. And the trailers I thought were really good at making it look like it was going to be a movie you can't miss. And I went into it just very open-minded. I thought, this isn't my X-Men, so I just need to accept that and try and enjoy this. And I did. So I didn't have high expectations. If anything, my expectations were at the floor. So needless to say, it exceeded them. And now this is a really strong film. I think it's kind of a mediocre X-Men film, but it's a great film.
We didn't talk at all about advertising and merchandising, which is something I like to bring up in these. I was really impressed when this came out how understated the advertising campaign was. Like, I knew about it. They didn't do a bad job of getting it around so that people knew it was happening, but it wasn't in your face. It wasn't this giant, like, this is gonna be like the be all end all X-Men movie. Like it came off really classy, I thought.
It did. I think that kind of hurt why it didn't make a whole lot of money. Or contributed to why it didn't make a whole lot of money, because I think this was less successful than X-Men 2, I think.
Yeah, but X-Men 2 did really well.
Not by 2011 standards. For the X-Men franchise. I mean, the X-Men's huge, and, let me look at how much it made, actually.
Shades, that's completely understandable given that they had two previous films that people really, really disliked.
I don't know. To me, this should be a franchise that makes money. This was the fifth film.
I agree with you, but prior films play a great deal in how well movies perform, and the fact that, I mean, X3 obviously did huge guns, but nobody went into that knowing how critically unsuccessful it was going to be, critically. And then Wolverine got a really bad rap too. And so, and then this being a prequel, I think you put all that together and you can't expect really big guns on this one. This is going to be the one people are going to shy away from until they hear good things about it. I think Days of Future Past is going to explode.
I think what you're talking about with the huge be-all end-all X-Men movie, advertising, I think they're going to give that to Days of Future Past. I could really see that film being, this is the film you have to see if you've ever seen an X-Men film.
Yeah, and I guess what I'm saying is, I think it was really smart of them not to go that way with this film, because if they oversold it and it was bad, they're going to have a really hard time making any more.
True, but when it was so good and was so critically successful...
yeah, we're saying that in hindsight. They didn't know that was going to happen.
No, oh, sure, yeah. But, like, when it was so successful, I bet they're kind of feeling, man, maybe we should have really tried to advertise this.
Yeah, maybe so, but you never know in hindsight.
That's true, yeah.
And, go back and look at Amazing Spider-Man. I mean, that movie did money, but the Raimi films broke records.
Yes. I mean, I think the deal with that is that people weren't excited to see their, this franchise that they loved recast.
Yeah, but I think a lot of it also, for a main audience, you gotta get your head somewhat out of fanboys and people that know those movies.
No, I believe me, I do.
Spider-Man 3 would have hurt that to a degree, and it's another one of those movies where they were smart enough. Now that one kind of was advertised as all over the place, but I'm just saying that I mean like they were smart enough to make it low key enough that they can be a little flashier with the next one, and I feel like that's kind of what happened here. Was they made a movie that was a little bit low key. I enjoyed that about it. I liked going into this and it wasn't kind of all in my face, because I knew that probably meant it was also going to be a little bit smarter written, because it's not a big action movie.
Something that's interesting is I think the general audience like X-Men 3, though. They're wrong, but they like X-Men 3. And I think a lot of people really liked Wolverine. I mean, you and I both said we both enjoyed it our first time watching it. I'm not sure how many of the people who saw it in the cinema went and saw it again.
Yeah, I also don't know how well that movie did. But
that movie did almost as good as X-Men 3.
Huh. I mean, I knew it performed. I didn't realize it performed that well. Yeah. Well, you've got a point. I think this is also somewhat complicated.
Yeah. I mean, actually, Wolverine didn't. Wolverine did only a little bit better than X-Men 2, but Wolverine had the film leak. The movie leaked online a month before, or 2 months before. So, but I find it interesting because I think the general public like these films. I'm shocked at the amount of people who read comic books that like X-Men 3. I'm shocked. The amount of comments on our commentary for that where people said, I still like this film. I went, how? It doesn't work in my brain.
You have a good point, though. You might be right about that. But wouldn't you also agree that it being a prequel and not a continuation of what they knew could have turned people off?
Well, yeah, but the thing is, I don't think it was advertised that much. Like, I don't know how many people really knew that there was a new X-Men film.
The prequel, yeah. And I wonder if, and I hate to even say this, but I wonder if the lack of Wolverine hurt it too. Because he does sell X-Men stuff.
Yeah, well, people associate Wolverine with X-Men. So if they see X-Men and there's no Wolverine, they might think, oh, what's that? I don't know if I want to see that.
I said the general public sees Wolverine as synonymous with X-Men, and it's not.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, everybody, thanks a lot for listening to Geek Nerd, the podcast. Really hope you enjoyed it. Shades, that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed watching that with you.
I enjoyed doing that too, man. That was fun.
And Shades and I'm sure we'll do more commentaries in the future. If we do anything together that's not X-Men, I don't know what it'll be. Hopefully, Shades will do something before we get our hands on the next one when it's on
Wolverine,
and then after that, of course, Days of Future Past.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again, everybody. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Shades.
We'll see you later.